Welcome to Frequency Matters. I'm Gary Lerude here with Kristen Anderson, my colleague. Pat Hindle is just back from NI Week in Austin and taking the day off. Well, we're in the studio today, not on the beach.
Yep, no more windblown hair.
So if you missed our last episode, we filmed it on Plum Island, and that was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I don't know if you had as much trouble as I did getting rid of all the sand in my toes and my...
And my flip-flops.
Yeah, exactly.
All day.
So as we record this episode, the summer is going by quickly, and our August issue has been printed and will be in the mail very shortly. This is our issue that's tied to the European Microwave Conference, and so we have a number of articles that tell about the conference, and our cover feature is tied to remotely piloted aircraft systems, which I think of as UAVs or drones, and that's one of the features of the European Microwave Conference. It's being written, or it has been written, by Patrick Garrick from Thales. He's a senior RF engineer, and he's working on RF systems for drones, takeoff and landing systems specifically. So it's an interesting article. It's from a European perspective, but I think a lot of it pertains to the US. What we see is there's the applications, the technology, and the regulatory framework, those three factors, and they're all at different levels of maturity and not aligned. So the challenge is how do you align them? And obviously we know that there are a lot of companies looking at applying drones for commercial applications, and the regulations aren't there yet to support it. So what else do we have in the issue? I know some special reports on the European Microwave Show.
Yep, let me cover first the welcome article. Welcome to European Microwave Week article provided by the general chairman of the show. Hervé Aubert is his name. Also, Ibar Bazzi, the president of Horizon House, contributed to that article.
Right.
They focus on the theme of this year's show, freedom through microwaves. They also talk about connected humans and Horizon 2020, and they talk about the main topic of this year's show being space. There are two talks in the opening session on this topic. One is called Space Antennas on Satellites for Telecommunications and Earth Observation Missions. And the other is called 30 Years of Innovation in TAS Radar Altimetry Products for Earth Climate Monitoring. Then there's a closing session focus on the Rosetta mission and the embedded RF electronics that contributed to the success of that mission. So that should be very interesting. Then the special report that you referred to, our international editor Richard Mumford did a really good job analyzing the RF and microwave industry in Europe with regards to he called them economic false starts and the stalled recovery. But he goes into the game plan going forward, or the roadmap for the industry going forward in Europe. And he highlights several key actions like the Innovative in SMEs initiative, the European framework programs, and again, Horizon 2020. In particular, outlining ways that this Horizon 2020 is impacting on various RF and microwave fields, like mobile communications, space, and materials technology. The report also offers the opinions of the three 2015 European Microwave Week conferences chairmen who provide insight into key areas of development and future trends in RF and microwaves, semiconductors and ICs, and radars, respectively. So that's one nice comprehensive report. It was a long read for me, but it was interesting how the European market is doing in the RF and microwave industry.
Yeah, I've read it too, and it's very thoughtful and informative.
Yeah.
Another article that Richard did, which pertains to the show itself, covers the venue, how to get around in Paris, as well as sort of the calendar for the week, for European Microwave Week.
Very practical.
So that's very practical and informative. Other things that caught your eye about the issue in terms of European microwave?
There's an event that I wanted to mention, the Women in Microwave Engineering event. It takes place on Tuesday at the show from 1:30 till 5:30, and it will include a panel session that will be focused on microwaves in the area of fashionable wearable technology. The emphasis there on fashionable. I'd like to see how they do that with the wearable technology. Also, it'll focus on microwaves in the arts and gastronomy, and it will end with a guided tour of a fashion workshop.
Interesting.
What do you think of that?
Yeah.
I mean, wearable technology is very bland right now, I guess, but
functional but not necessarily fashionable.
Yeah. I also wanted to mention there'll be several invited presentations on these topics as they strongly relate to the city of Paris that will be given at the Women in Microwave Engineering event, and that they'll be followed by a Q&A session as well.
Why don't we switch to news now? Last episode we talked about some of the earnings reports being released, and Skyworks in particular. Since then, Qorvo, which is the number 2 broad-based RF semiconductor supplier, reported their earnings for their first fiscal quarter of their fiscal year 2016. And their revenue was $674 million, which was up 6% from the prior quarter and about 23% above the prior quarter a year ago. If you peel the onion behind that, their mobile business, which is the largest portion of Qorvo's business, was $551 million. It was up 12% from the prior quarter. Their infrastructure and defense business, however, was down 13% over the prior quarter, and they saw some real headwinds, some softness in the infrastructure market in China. And unfortunately, that part of the business is about a third, they said, of their infrastructure and defense business, and it was down 40% in June, so a very significant impact.
Yeah.
So I think it's a pause. I don't think people should be unduly concerned. I mean, we know that people want more bandwidth. That's a continuing trend. And the market's going to recover, and they'll do well as it does recover. So what news did you see?
I saw in the news a new center by Lockheed Martin that will improve satellite sensing and communication technologies. They call it the RF Payload Center of Excellence. And this is going to be a co-location of development, production, and testing that will become the hub for a network of experts in industry and academia who are focused on the future of RF technology. Now, they're going to be working on a variety of technologies commonly used in RF payloads like antennas, arrays, and transmitters for the full spectrum of bandwidth. But they will be focusing on developing reconfigurable payloads and advancing satellite systems that many already rely on, from high-definition TV broadcast to GPS transmissions and secure government communications.
Sounds like a good move on their part, because the whole space market looks like it's going to go through a growth cycle for the next 10 years.
Very exciting, isn't it?
Yeah. So anything else?
No, I think that wraps up this episode.
Sounds good.
So we'd like to thank you for watching. We'd also like to thank our sponsors who have made this possible. One is Mini Circuits, online at minicircuits.com. Also Qorvo, online at Qorvo, Qorvo.com. Again, thank you for watching. We hope you'll join us for the next episode of Frequency Matters.